Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Carl Giacalone. I work in the Planning Board office. Tonight is a public forum for any comments that anybody may have to add or whatever they want to say about the master plan that is yet to be approved but will be soon. This process has been going on since about 2009. And just a side note, one of our former board members, Bob Whalen, was cleaning out his garage and came across a document that was very interesting. He found the master plan from 1967, the original book. It is now, I took that and I put it in the clerk's vault and it's secured. So that's something that can be compared if you had any interest in seeing what we said in 1967, 50 years ago, to what we're about to discuss tonight. The plan covers a wide variety of topics from open space to economic development to infrastructure. It takes a look at where we are now and recommendations of what we should be doing for, I say, the next 20 years. Is that correct? So basically, what this is about is we're asking anybody who has any comments, any thoughts, would like to add to what has been put into this process, and you're open to speak your mind. And at that point, I'm opening it up to anybody who'd like to speak.
We get to go through the brief PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a brief PowerPoint. This is John Hume from MRPC. MRPC are the people who wrote the master plan for the town.
So there you go. Okay, before I get started, I wanted to mention that there are refreshments here. Lots and lots of sandwiches, probably too many. So please help yourself. Water, soda, chips. So if anybody wants to, as I'm presenting, feel free to just help yourself. My name is John Hume, and I'm Planning and Development Director with the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, and MRPC is the abbreviation. We've been assisting the Planning Board, the Templeton Planning Board, to piece together the master plan since 2009 or 2010. It's been a lengthy process, generally because of the funding. A master plan can get done under 2 years, but the thing is, you have to have the funding for it, and they're quite expensive. And the reason why it has been a more lengthy process is because Templeton, like the majority of communities throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, have trouble coming up with a lump sum to put together a master plan. They're quite expensive, but hats off to the Planning Board. They stuck with it, and we're near the finish line right now. So basically, what I'd like to do, just to give everybody a flavor of what a master plan is all about, I wanted to do a brief PowerPoint presentation, only about 15 minutes. And basically, it's going to be just an overview of what a master plan is. And then I was going to go through the elements that Carl talked about that make up the master plan. Just go through a couple highlights of each element and some of the recommendations. And you can follow along. You can see a lot of people are out in the back there. It might be kind of hard to see the screen. We do have this handout right here, the blue and green handout. So you can follow along with that as well. And the handouts are right over there.
Does anybody need one?
Okay, thank you. So you can follow along with your handout. Like I said, I'm going to try and be brief with this, just 15 minutes or so. And as Carl had indicated, it'd be great to open it up to discussion, public comment, any input, public input that we might be able to get tonight so that we can incorporate it into the final master plan. So having said that, I can dig right into the presentation here. This is the first slide right here. Basically, a planning board, according to Mass General laws, is the responsible entity to put together a master plan. Elements of the Templeton master plan go right along with Mass General laws. We've got a goals and policies statement, land use, economic development, transportation, historical and cultural resources, open space and recreation, housing, community services, and facilities, implementation plan, and basically a master plan is a decision-making document. Another benefit that can be realized by having a current master plan are grant opportunities too. So that can be substantial. You can get some extra points on some state grants and some federal grants too. So it's really nice to have a document like this. Preparing each element. How do you put together, like for example, a transportation element or an economic development element? Well, the first step is data collection, municipal resources, state resources, a lot of census data too, to put together an element at the beginning stage. The next stage is goal setting. Step 3 comes the development of recommendations based on the data that's collected in the analysis. And as I indicated before with funding, right there, you can put a master plan together in 2 years, but you know, it's really tough to come up with a substantial amount of money. Any municipality has trouble doing that, so it's taken some time. And there aren't many funding sources out there. However, there are some. MRPC was able to reduce the cost to the community by funding 2 elements out of a program that we have, District Local Technical Assistance. The funds come from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts at no cost to the town of Templeton. So we were able to bring the cost down somewhat by funding the land use chapter and the transportation chapter. Public outreach. 3 public forums were held, including the public forum this evening. Also, the planning board reviewed each and every individual draft element too at their regularly scheduled planning board meetings, and planning board took comments from the public at those meetings. A community survey was sent out a while ago. It had a great response rate. Generally, if you can get 15% response rate, I know it sounds kind of low, but it's tough to get people to respond. You're doing pretty good. With Templeton, it was easily exceeded that, more than 25% response rate. We set out 3,000 households, 753 responses were received, so that was really good, and we get some valuable information from the residents of Templeton to help us out. Okay, now I was going to start. I'm not going to read all this off. I'm just going to hit a couple highlights here. This PowerPoint that you have right here, it's kind of like something that you can take home with you too. But just going to go through each element and then some of the recommendations for each element too. Templeton, for the land use element, it's important to point out there's a lot of open and forested land. You can see this driving down any road throughout the community. You can see it through aerial photographs. So there's a lot of forest and open space. Single-family home development is the most prevalent developed land use in Templeton. I think you've got about 1,800 acres or so of developed land for residential, followed by commercial and industrial. We've got about a little under 600 acres used for that purpose. Get a lot of good results here from the community survey. It's incorporated into the master plan that respondents thought that growth was just about right in Templeton. 43% thought that growth, residential, commercial, industrial growth was good, but almost 30% thought that it was too fast, and about 13% thought that it was too slow. Top challenges, according to the community survey, cost of the school systems. That was one. Number 2, lack of retail shopping And number 3 was lack of employment opportunities. When we get to economic development, we'll see some unemployment stats for Templeton too. And economic development is important to residents is maintaining rural and historical assets. So some recommendations for land use: facilitate the existing permitting process. That could be developing a permitting guidebook would be a good way to do that. There are some other ways to do it too. Chapter 43D, which is explained in the master plan. Also, pursue grant opportunities. I know that Templeton is not a green community at the moment. Quite a few communities, your neighbors, are becoming green communities or already are green communities. I think Winchendon just put an application in. I know Gardner's a green community, Ashby, quite a few communities. You can get grant funds from this if you do become a green community. So it's something that would be of interest to Templeton to look into. General bylaw to regulate signs. Analyzing current zoning bylaws to determine their adequacy. Identify new areas or expansion of existing areas and found suitable for commercial industrial development. Moving on to the next slide, we have housing element. The population increased a lot in Templeton between 2000 and 2010. MRPC serves 22 communities. I think Templeton, the population in Templeton increased the most because of the housing boom that took place between 2000 and 2007. Let's see, you have mostly single-family units. Percentage of the housing stock is about 27.8% was built before 1940. It's a little bit lower in the county in Massachusetts, but you do have older homes out there that are in need of repair. Templeton has a higher median age than the statewide average, and I'm not surprised by that at all because a lot of communities out in the Montechusett region in this area have a higher median age, so Templeton is following that trend. Also, single-family homes, values increasing over the last couple of years. Between 2012 and 2015, you can see the value of properties, sold properties, increased by almost $20,000. So it seems like the housing market's improving, although slowly here too. Housing recommendations. Open space residential development bylaw. I know hasn't been used, or it's been used very infrequently. Maybe the town could look into ways to make it more attractive to developers. Continue to apply for community development block grant funds to help fix up residential units. It's a great program, and the town has applied in the past. We have some grants, other grants that we could look at. Community Preservation Act. Templeton is a CPA community, which is fabulous. Collaborate with Habitat for Humanity and strive to comply with Chapter 43. I know it's difficult. There's a lot of affordable housing in Templeton at the moment, but it's something that it's like mandated by the state, so you have to give a good faith effort to comply with subsidized housing. Economic development, this is very interesting. Unemployment rate is now about 5.4%. Now that was for the year 2015, all of 2015. That's the 2016 data didn't come out. It might be out now, but it wasn't out a couple months ago when we put this together. But the per capita income, but backing up to unemployment, one trend that I wanted to note too, Templeton's unemployment is always a little bit a notch or two above the state unemployment. So it does indicate the need for additional employment opportunities. Per capita income is low in Templeton, but You know something, the median family income is right up there. The median household income is right up there with the state average. So that tells me that there's more families in Templeton, and that's a trend around this area too. In Boston, you have a lot of single people just living in an apartment. But when you include median family income, you're including income of all the people that are living in the house, including a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So that's pretty much the difference. Templeton, education, a lot of people with an associate's degree in Templeton. Templeton's homeowners accounted for about 90% of the total tax base. We compared that to other communities. It's kind of middle of the road throughout the Montechusett region for the taxes for residential. We support 90% of it, but we think that Templeton would be a little bit better, perhaps. Many residents, according to the community survey, would like to see small-scale retail, restaurants, hardware, home improvement stores in large-scale retail. Now, there were some less popular businesses there that people marked down in the survey too. There was gas stations, fast food, and services too. Economic development recommendations. You've got an economic development committee going right now. That's fabulous. It was just developed last year. That's good. Keep that one going. Brownfields. Proactively work across the brownfields. Once again, facilitate the existing permitting process. That's called out in a couple different chapters. There's a lot of industrial, commercial land, in raw land in Templeton. So you've got the land, but you don't really have the infrastructure to bring it to its full potential. As the town grows, it would be nice to have design guidelines and performance standards to protect your community character and the environment too, make it a pleasant place, keep it a pleasant place to live. Investigate infill mixed-use development overlay bylaw. There's a lot of potential lots in Baldwinville Village that might not meet the zoning codes right now. By doing an overlay, perhaps you could figure a way out to make those vacant spots in that part of the community productive in terms of economic development. And supporting local businesses, of course. But historic and cultural resources, you've got the Templeton Center Historic District, Baldwinville Historic District, and cultural opportunity that is noteworthy mention, of course, Templeton Arts and Crafts Festival held every year. Couple of recommendations. You have a couple of really good reports when it comes to historic and cultural. You've got the Templeton Reconnaissance Report. It's done about 5 years ago or something, but it's still, or 6 years ago, but it's still a good report. I don't think that the town has followed through with all the recommendations, so it'd be worth revisiting. Same with the Town Center Common Master Plan. Once again, I mentioned this before, but town-wide general bylaw regulates signs. That can preserve the historic character of the communities throughout Templeton. Demolition and delay bylaw, public education. Then we have some grant program up there. And Mass Historic Preservation provides training to municipalities on occasion, so it's good to keep that in mind. And MRPC can too at a regional level. Open space and recreation, to keep the cost down of the master plan and also to keep it very thorough. The open space and recreation plan that you have was heavily drawn upon. With the community survey, it's important to point out that there's very strong support for open space and recreation in Templeton. It's very important to residents, particularly farmlands and open space to meet water and conservation needs. Services and facilities. It was interesting to note The single-family home tax bill in 2016 is $2,867. Throughout the Massachusetts region, if you compare it to other communities, that's not all that bad. We looked at other, Winchton was close, Royalston was a little bit below you, Gardner was above this. Other towns like Phillipston, Hubbardston, further you move east, it's substantially more. So the single-family tax bill was relatively advantageous. Once again, taxes, residential taxes was almost 90% of the tax base. Right here, per capita state aid in Templeton, per capita per person is $178. A little bit lower in Gardner, but that's to be expected because a formula that they have includes median family income and per capita income and all those sorts of things. And Gardner's, in the eyes of the state, a more needy community. Municipal budget was more than $7 million. It funds police, highway department, schools, cemeteries, debt services, council on aging, board of health, planning, zoning, all administrative functions of the town too. And I wanted to point out with the council on aging, we did get some comments on this that we are incorporating into the master plan. In the master plan, the draft, we had some facts and figures that were a little bit outdated, so I'd like to extend a thank you to the council on aging. Okay, recommendations, services and facilities, explore regionalization. If you team up with other towns doing certain things, you might be able to save money. Department of Revenue Financial Management Review was done 7 or 8 years ago, and it's great report. I thought that they did quite a thorough job on it, and there were a lot of good recommendations in it. Update the capital improvement plan, which has had past success in Templeton. Water and sewer system expansion policy for enhanced tax base. Enhanced professional management. Used to have a town coordinator. I understand that the town is interviewing or close to getting closer to hiring a town administrator, which is a good step in the right direction. One important thing, critical here, because we don't want to see the town's plan sit on the shelf, establish a master plan implementation. That can be made up of different boards, one person representing different boards in the community, like someone from the planning board, someone from the board of selectmen, someone from the conservation commission, and so forth. But that would be good to get that up and running sooner rather than later. And building stronger coordination between the municipal departments. And I think that this last element, so we're approaching the end here. You've got State Route 2, of course, with transportation. Goes right through the Montechusett region. A lot of crashes. Well, it seems like in the Montechusett region, more than 13,000, but just 165 of those crashes occurred in Templeton. Also, you've got Wachusett Commuter Rail Station that opened up just recently too. So that can be very advantageous to folks wanting to go in Boston now, because you wouldn't have to drive through some of the back roads and go to Fitchburg or go to Leominster or even further to South Acton. Some people I know go to South Acton. Transportation recommendations. MRPC does a lot of transportation planning. We have our own transportation department. You can schedule up to 5 free traffic counts every year for MRPC, so you'll make sure that you take advantage of that service. Promote traffic calming efforts. You can look in the Town Center Commons study. There's a lot of recommendations in there on how to promote traffic calming. Making neighborhoods more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. Regional trail network, that's important. A lot of people enjoy that. Ski mobiles too. things of that nature. Also, analyzing traffic crash data, too. We have crash data that's in the master plan, and it's good to take a good hard look at that, find out where your dangerous intersections are and what can be done about them. So that's it. It's really hard presenting a 200-page document in 15 or 20 minutes, but it's just to give you more of a flavor of what the master plan is all about, and I hope I did give you that a little bit of flavor. And, it is on the website. It's on the website. We have hard copies in the planning department, in the town clerk's office, and I hope everybody had a chance to read through it at least briefly prior to ending this evening. And so, having said that, I think we could open it up to any comments.
Question, John. Is part of the process that it would require, it will go through an approval process with like a town meeting or a vote for the residents to approve this master plan?
That's a good question. According to Mass General laws, for a master plan to become an official master plan, it needs a majority vote of the planning board. And then it would be official. Some communities take the extra step after the planning board adopts it, or they can bring it to town meeting. Some communities will bring it to town meeting for adoption, which can be a good idea.
One of my areas is with parking.
Parking?
You know, we have the Templeton Arts and Crafts fair, and we have other festivities on the common, but our parking was reduced when we put in all the sidewalks. So, you know, what accommodations are, you know, this addresses open space and land use and everything, but, you know, if you want people to come, where's our parking?
So, the town center common study that was done, there were recommendations for
Yeah, I
it.
couldn't find that online.
Okay. It would be a good idea, maybe the town could put that report online.
We should have a copy of that office.
Yes.
I've got an electronic copy that I can provide to the town. Also, we can put it online and.
That's the town comment.
Yeah.
And that addresses parking?
Yes, well, it's got a parking element in there. So I don't know if it would address all your concerns, but that would be a good study to start with.
Okay,
I'll find that study, I'll give it to Holly to put online.
thank you.
I agree with you. I think long term, there's a lot of problems up there with parking.
Yes.
It's a major issue.
Mhm.
So
Um,
only to get worse too, I think, unfortunately. Not to be pessimistic. Just saying.
John, you mentioned something about green communities. Can you tell us a little bit about what the benefits and the costs would be for the town?
Oh, I can. With green communities, like I had mentioned, a lot of your neighbors have become green communities. We just, MRPC staff here tonight has put together an application for Fitchburg. So you can apply for some assistance to MRPC through our DLTA program to put together an application. But some of the benefits, first of all, they give you, once you're approved by the state, it's hard to put one of these applications together. I mean, me and Shuby know that. We worked on it for the last 6 months. But once you get approved by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, correct me, Shuby, if I'm wrong, you know more about green communities than I do, but you get an automatic grant of something like?
Yes, so it depends on the population of the town, and like Fitchburg will most likely get close of about $150,000. Again, it depends on the population, so that's dependent on that. And there were a lot of other elements that we found as we were putting the report together, like they followed through their vehicle inventory, just like something very minor, but they figured that they were paying a lot of insurance money for the vehicles they didn't even own anymore. So a lot of things came up which tried to get fixed along the way, and they're going through audits of the building of how to make them more efficient. Ultimately, it's going to be a very good for the city.
And I think that Templeton would get like at least like $100,000 right off the bat. But the key is that $100,000 has to be used for energy improvement, like could be used for furnaces in the school, could be
Or
used-
siding, or siding on a senior center.
Insulation. Could be insulation. Anything that would conserve energy and keep the heat in municipal buildings throughout the community. So, and then after that, after you get that initial $100,000 or whatever it is, more than $100,000, then you're eligible for funds on a yearly basis, but it's competitive. But at least you can apply.
Nothing comes free though. What's it going to cost them?
It's not going to cost the community anything. I think that the major cost would have been putting the application together, because it's expensive to put it together. But if you can get assistance from MRPC, even Department of Energy Resources, DOER, I believe they're coming out with some small grants that RPAs, regional planning agencies like MRPC, are eligible to get to help counties. If you can get something like that, MRPC can jump in and put the application together, and that's the biggest cost, I think. I don't think that there's any cost after that, because once you get your grants, they even have money to administrate it too.
The grant that we use for the last two chapters, that's something that could be applied to apply for the green.
That's correct,
Okay, so
yes.
I actually have an application on my desk I just received. So if you want to come by tomorrow, I'll show it to you.
sorry.
Yeah, John, just a follow-up question, to my earlier question about the approval process for the actual plan. So the planning board approves it and decides whether they want to have the town, but then it also needs to be approved by the state as well, to be the final. Do they sometimes come back with recommendations, or do they just say yes or no, or on a plan?
They can come back and say, well, you need a future development map, or there's like a list of requirements that the state has. I've got it on the table over there. Each element has to have within it. So that they can come back and they can say, oh, you need a map for industrial lands or something like that. So it's possible, but I'd like to think that Templeton covered all their bases, but you do need to submit it to the state.
So they have to approve before you qualify for using that for grants or whatever.
Yeah, well, you can still apply for green communities.
Oh.
Yeah, that wouldn't have a bearing on green communities, but for other grants,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to say you have national grants that are approved. Yeah.
Was any mention about Hamlin's proximity to railroad tracks in the master plan as for future industry development, or anything about access? I mean, you mentioned Route 2 and how close we were to that, but was anything taken into consideration about railroad access?
A little bit, I think in the transportation section, but in economic development, I don't recall anything with freight, but that's something that I can look into
Okay.
for you, because that is important.
So I know we have a spur at Temple Stewart, and we have a spur at the old paper mill that could,
That's actually really
spur
good.
something economical.
And I think we made some zoning changes, whatever it was, to
Right, I remember
commercial,
that, yeah.
to try to set that up for future commercial use. So I can talk to you tomorrow on some of the changes that we made and possibly incorporate
Good. Thank you.
John, on page 55 in the plan, it refers to DEP tier classified chapter 21 sites, 21E sites, and there were 4 there. It got me to thinking on Mill Street, is that not a brownfield site, or I didn't see it listed on here, former paper mill operation? Was that?
I mean, my thoughts on that are, it may not be listed in the DEP site,
Oh,
but
okay.
it could very well be a brownfield.
Oh, okay, but not
It's just-
listed, okay.
Yeah, it's just not in their
Oh,
website. That's why MRPC also has a brownfields grant program to do environmental site assessments for even the private sector or for communities too, to find out more about it. If someone's interested in redeveloping a property or they want to sell the property, it can make it a more an attractive property to sell if you know if you have contamination or not. And if you have like a phase 1 or a phase 2 done, it shows that what it can be used for can be more valuable to a property owner.
Can it be used for like an open area or a park, around field?
Well, it can be. It depends on the contamination. As the property is being studied through environmental site assessments, first phase 1 is done, and it's a lot of book work. It's like about, they look at past incidences, anything through any paper trail or anything like that. The next step is a phase 2, and they do borings, test water, test soil, and what they find depends on what it can be used for. Basically, parking lot is a lot different than like a daycare facility or like a playground or something like that. So I mean, as they study the site, the environmental consultant can make more of a conclusion like that.
Many of our brownfields in town here are bogged down in legal issues which prevent their resolution. What do other communities do to expedite this, particularly communities that don't have money to spend on the lawyers and the legal, resolving the legal issues?
I mean, that's a tough one. I don't know, some sites just sit idle, unfortunately.
I know, we've had several that set for many years now.
Yeah.
Can I chime in for something like that? First of all, we've done a lot of brownfields work over the last 20 years at the office. And many times we get calls from communities and they say, you know, we just inherited or purchased a site. And now can I get some EPA money to go study it? Well, if you purchased it, now you own it. You own the liability. And then this thing called chain of liability, which lawyers love to talk about. Once you purchase a site, you own the liability, and so do all the preceding owners, to clean up that site. Now, realistically, what happens is the present owner is going to be on the hook. So the first thing you don't want to do, don't buy any sites. If I can leave you with anything tonight about brownfields, don't go out and buy anything. Now, I know the town has a financial issue, and you know those come and go. But the reality is that if you had $1 million in the stabilization, don't go start buying contaminated properties. Second issue, I'm going to pick on Woodskull, because it's right here on page 55 that Peter just pointed out. I remember vividly 25 years ago we discussed some of our sites in Baldwinville Village and what to do with them. Well, the Woodskull building hasn't gotten any younger. At some point, someone's got to look at that parcel and say, it's a threat to public safety. The structure has to come down. And slap a lien on it, and maybe if redevelopment happens, maybe get money back in the coffers. So in some cases, a municipality can exercise, you know, its demolition right, slap a lien on the property, maybe get money back, maybe you don't, to eliminate the threat to public safety. But don't buy the darn property. A lot of these, why we struggle with them, Dennis, with this response is, it's really up to the private market to do a lot of this stuff that we're hoping they do. But just don't get bogged in, hopefully, and if you want to really tackle some of these brownfield sites, then you got to have a lawyer, you got to have a bankroll, and start going after the stuff legally, but it's not cheap, it's not free, it's going to cost money. I remember talking to a prior interim town administrator when we set up the Economic Development Committee that Stephen and I are on with John Kaplis and Rich Curtis. And the prior town administrator interim indicated, well, maybe we set up a redevelopment authority or the Economic Development Industrial Corporation, and maybe we pursue purchasing the Temple Stewart site at 4 Holman Street. And I just kept saying, time out, please, for the love of all that's good and holy, let's not do that. Because you don't want to start buying these things. So sometimes you're just, I hate to say you're powerless, but unless you're really poised, positioned, you're funded, you've got the right lawyer, you can do something about it. I mean, sometimes, I hate to say a town is powerless, it's never powerless. But without some coin and some resources, there's not a lot you can do. Now, if you have the coin and the resources and you have the willpower, because with political will, anything can be done. You can do anything you want. And we can take Temple Stewart someday, that 22 acres, and we can do like they did in Lowell. We can get the right entity, we buy it, we pave 6 inches of pavement, we put 6 inches of loam, and we make baseball fields or soccer, or whatever. You can create green space out of a brownfield site. So the world is your oyster. Anything you want to do, you can do. But it's not cheap, it's not free, it's not simple. But Woodskill is more of a, well, let's get the damn building done. You know, Temple Stewart a little more complicated, Mill Street a little more complicated. And to the town's credit, it's done some things that I'm not aware of the details with Mill Street with some demo and stuff like that. But you've got to have a pocketbook.
We talk about wanting to bring in more business, industry, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And these are some options and
They are.
locations for us. But
Yes, they are.
we're kind of helpless to do anything about it.
And the Economic Development Committee is concentrating right now on exit 20 and exit 19 for the industrial zoned areas. Shuby's just done some preliminary subdivision looks, and we can fit several industrial parks at exit 20. So there's some green space development for industrial purposes, for industrial zoning, what John Rowe designed for the town a decade ago. So we can get some business development in the town. Greenfield economic development, it goes faster than brownfield redevelopment. But the brownfield stuff has to happen too, because we've got to address those parcels.
Anybody has any other additional comments, say, over the next 10 days? What are your thoughts on this, Carl? Maybe
Any comments can be addressed to me. You can look up the planning board office phone number or email. Email me with comments. I will forward them over to MRPC, and they will be evaluated, and if they could be used, they'll be incorporated.
yes. If you could do that over the next 10 days or so, because, the planning board, I think, was interested in finalizing the document in February. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
But this would take an awful lot of work to implement.
Well, the idea is to be able to, if you have a plan in place, it doesn't all happen overnight. It just, you at least have a plan and outline to work on so that you know where the next 20, 30, 50, 100 plus years,
Right.
you know, where you want to head with those things.
And as indicated earlier, the town does put in for grants for whatever reason. One of the first questions is, let's see your master plan. So this one will have a lot more weight than the one that we had since 1967.
I think it's important to let the folks here know, and I'm so glad that Templeton Cable TV is here tonight. It's very important to know that master plans, open space and recreation plans, capital improvement plans, anything that has municipal plan tied to it, they're living, breathing documents that are supposed to get updated a lot more than every 50 years. So if you see something in here, you know, that maybe should be tweaked a year from now, tweak it. You'll own the Word document, you can update the plan. If this was a business, this would be a business plan. It's a community, so it's a master plan or a comprehensive plan. But it's a living, breathing thing, like a Constitution of the U.S. or Massachusetts. They're intended to be guide, policy, direction, overreaching goals. And where we find, no one hates when a plan sits on a shelf worse than a planner. So on behalf of Noam, way to go, Shubi and myself and John, that do a lot of planning, writing, and I'm sure others of you have probably had your hands in this kind of work, you hate to see these things gather dust. Yes, my father-in-law was on the board, was on the planning board when this was adopted in '67, and I was in a playpen in East Templeton. So you want these things to live. The master plan implementation committee is so important. It's vital. You need people to come together. And I don't care if you get 5, 7, or 15 people, but I think the best example we ever found was the town of Winchendon about 15, 16 years ago. Created a master plan, had over 150 items on its to-do list. What did they do? They had an implementation committee, and they just went through them one by one over a decade, and they addressed dozens of those tasks in their master plan. So you can do it.
Can I just make an announcement? Would that be okay?
Sure.
I am Emma, and Katie Colleen and I are representatives from the Conway School in East Hampton, and we're going to be working on an update for the open space and recreation plan over the next couple months. So we'll be holding a community meeting for that in the next couple weeks. So please stay tuned and attend if possible. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, those are basically the next steps. Getting some comments to Carl over the next 10 days. Go forward them to MRPC. We'll forward them to the planning board before February. And you should have the announcement in February.
Well, on behalf of the planning board, I want to thank John for all your hard work, as well as everyone else at MRPC. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And nobody gets out without having seen it. So important. Because I just saw
Minimum 3.
someone at the office put my photo in here somewhere, and I am taking advantage of Planet Fitness's deal tomorrow. Especially after seeing that photo. So I am not having a sandwich, but you all have to. Okay?
Nice job, John.
And again, thank you for all the residents that showed up tonight. We do appreciate it.
Yes, it has.